This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. I want to begin this half hour in the Middle East. Israeli forces in Lebanon now capturing many homes near the border where terrorists were hiding weapons and making ready to invade Israel and slaughter thousands of residents. As Paul Strand reports from Jerusalem, Iran says if Israel hits it hard, it'll hurt back many times.
In southern Lebanon, the IDF is showing the world Hezbollah was set to use many homes just across the border from Israel as launching pads for a massive invasion of the Jewish nation.
Every house is a terror base.
The IDF's chief spokesman says Hezbollah's elite Radwan units were set to strike from 6 of these locations simultaneously with some 4,000 to 6,000 terrorists. They used all these homes for weapon storage.
You see the hand grenades here? Sniper rifles, extremely high sniper rifles, shooting on our forces, shooting on our civilians from far away.
The IDF says the invasion would have even been bigger than Hamas's October 7th attacks. Hezbollah had placed its terrorists along the border days after those attacks, waiting for the order to strike. While Israel prevented that potential invasion, it's also promising to strike back at Iran for launching more than 180 ballistic missiles at it last week. But a senior Iranian military advisor is warning for every one location Israel hits, Iran will target dozens of Israeli locations, both civilian and military. And the UN's Relief and Works Agency is back in the news, this time as a nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize, after being nominated in February by a Norwegian politician. It's believed at least 9 Gazans on UNRWA's payroll may have taken an active part in Hamas's brutal assault on Israel October 7th. So there's fresh outrage this week that the committee picking the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize refused to remove UNRWA's nomination, despite protests from thousands of people. UNRWA critic Helen of UN Watch was furious at predictions the UN relief agency could have won.
It would be really an abomination. It would be obscene.
Ayelet Samaranu's son Yonatan was murdered on October 7, and then an UNRWA social worker hauled his body off to Gaza. Ayelet is disgusted UNRWA was in the running for the prestigious Peace Prize.
We're talking about an organization that has taken a very active part in the murder, rape, and kidnap of innocent people.
The UN Secretary General, who's been critical of Israel, and the UN International Court of Justice were also nominated, but none of them won the prize, which went to a Japanese organization of atomic bombing survivors. Paul Strand, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is joining us now. So, Chris, are the U.S. and Israel getting closer to an agreement on an attack on Iran?
Me? True. Well, this is today is quite a day when the U.S. and Israel are deciding what to do exactly in terms of their decision on what to do with Iran, and it remains to be seen exactly what's going to happen. And the consensus seems to be that the U.S. and Israel are deciding on some sort of compensation package for Israel in terms of maybe not deciding on what their nuclear and the oil facilities, which were some of the targets at first, to see exactly what the Israel is going to do. Could be within a few days, after Yom Kippur, of course.
Mm-hmm. What is the hope of some of Iranians and others in the Middle East?
Well, Ephraim, a lot of people, including a number of people inside Iran itself, would like to see the regime fall itself, and they hope that Israel's attack against what's going on right now will accelerate that fall. We also hope that there are people like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, that have been enemies of Iran for many, many years. They too are hoping that Israel could deliver a blow against Iran that would be exactly what the ultimate outcome of having the world state sponsor of terror, the largest world state sponsor of terror, fall once this happens.
How would you describe how Jews are preparing for Yom Kippur this evening?
Well, this is a the most holiest day of the year for them. They're going to be preparing by fasting for 25 hours. They're going to be going to synagogue. They're going to be remembering what the Jews have been doing for thousands of years. Getting before God and looking to Him for the atonement for their sins, and this is a very, very special day, and especially after 1 year after October 7th. This really means a lot to people after they commemorated that just a few days ago. And also in a few days, looking at the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Sukkot, they'll be remembering how God delivered them in the desert when they left the land of Egypt.
Indeed. Real quick, what is on Jerusalem Dateline today?
Well, on Jerusalem Dateline, there's an interview with Cindy Jacobs. She had a prophetic word last year about just before October 7th, and she has a prophetic word this year about what it's going to be like, what she hopes, and many hope, to be freedom coming to the Middle East, to Lebanon, to Syria, to Iran, to Yemen, and also a story with John Medved about the genius of Israel, and it should be a great Jerusalem Dateline.
All right, we look forward to that as always. Thank you so much for your time, Chris, and we appreciate your insights. I want to remind you at home that you can see more news from the Middle East Bureau on Jerusalem Dateline. You can find it on the CBN News Channel this evening. It'll begin at 8. You can also watch it on CBN News Channel, or you can watch it on YouTube. Again, that is 8 o'clock this evening, Eastern Standard Time. Back here at home, coastal residents in Florida trying to put their lives back together in the wake of Hurricane Milton. At least 8 people are dead, but many are relieved Milton wasn't even worse. Dale Hurd is on this story.
Floridians are still discovering the full extent of Milton's destruction and learning stories of survival. This man was found floating 30 miles off the Gulf Coast, clinging to a cooler to stay afloat. The Coast Guard rescued him after he tried to ride out Milton on his fishing boat in 25-foot seas. Milton came ashore Wednesday night south of Tampa as a Category 3 hurricane. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department was going door to door on boats, rescuing more than 700 people.
Please be careful. If you feel better, go on the dry ground. We can take you there.
500 were rescued from this apartment complex. This 14-year-old boy was found floating on a piece of fence. In Tampa, a mother and son used their fishing boat to help stranded people.
These people all need help. Nobody has been here today.
In Gulf Coast communities from Naples to Venice, some have found their homes buried under as much as 3 feet of sand. 38 reported tornadoes damaged hundreds of homes. On the other side of Florida, in Palm Beach Gardens, this dumpster was picked up by a tornado and thrown onto a house. At least 6 people were killed when a tornado hit this retirement community.
When I was coming back around, there was people screaming in the trailer park, and 2 or 3 of us jumped the ditch to go check it out, and one guy was already passed away, and it looked like there was a bomb. Went off right there.
The Palm Beach County Sheriff called the damage in the Wellington area extensive, saying all 200 homes he surveyed were uninhabitable.
And I can tell you why, because the places that I saw looked like it was an atomic bomb blew it up.
Operation Blessing, already helping victims of Helene in North Carolina, is sending pre-deployment teams into the Tampa Bay area. OB relief workers will be taking generators, mobile kitchens, construction equipment, chainsaws, and other supplies to help those in need. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
If you'd like to support Operation Blessing as it helps those hit by Milton, you can call 1-800-700-7000. You can also log on to Operation Blessing's website. That address is ob.org. Coming up, we've got an update on the continued recovery efforts in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. See how Operation Blessing is reaching those in isolated areas in western North Carolina. Stay with us. You're watching CBN News Watch. Welcome back to CBN News Watch. People in remote parts of western North Carolina are still waiting for help after Hurricane Helene devastated their communities. Operation Blessing's teams are taking to the air to reach these isolated areas with water purification systems, solar lights, and emergency food supply. George Thomas has more.
In Fairview, North Carolina, Jess and Chris Jager face significant hurdles in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene.
Just this morning, we were talking about it'll be months before we can, I don't know, take showers more regularly and have enough drinking waters.
Their small town, nestled in the hills and dense forest southeast of Asheville, was one of the hardest hit areas. Roads in and out of Fairview remain impassable or destroyed, making it a huge challenge to get aid, especially clean water, to this area. The couple's main source, a nearby creek, is contaminated with hazardous materials.
Who knows what chemicals in there? I mean, there's cans of paint thinners, there's, countless cans of gas and diesel.
They had only 60 gallons of water on hand when raging waters swept through their community.
We were just planning on living off that as long as we could, which most people use over 100 in one shower.
Fantastic. Thanks, sir.
Operation Blessing literally flew in using helicopters to deliver vital supplies, including a water filtration system capable of producing clean water. OB teamed up with pilot Joe Hurston to reach the Jagers and others trapped in some of these isolated communities.
The scope and the depth of this destruction is staggering. Everywhere you look, there are isolated areas, rivers, bridges gone, roads gone, houses gone.
Hurston has been flying into disaster areas around the world for more than 40 years. This one hit especially close to home, as he lives less than 2 hours away and jumped into action immediately. On this relief mission, he's carrying several 29-pound cases containing a machine that can produce up to 25 gallons of clean water an hour, enough for 1,000 people.
We get this miracle machine dropped into our lap by God that can take sewer water and make it pure on less electricity than a light bulb.
The filtration system, set up by the creek, quickly began producing fresh water.
Hearing that we could reliably pull water from our creek again just kind of brought me to tears and made me really emotional.
Jess's neighbor, Justin Hansen, is also thankful.
The water filtration system's great. I think it'll be fun to get that and get water to everybody around us.
Hansen pointed out that the creek, which once caused such devastation, is now a source of hope.
Our chickens are gonna die.
Yes, they are. Just a few days earlier, they stood on the banks watching in disbelief as the rising waters swept away their mother's home. As many survivors remain without food and power, Operation Blessing continues to provide solar lights and emergency meal packages.
People have been without power for many, many days now and have no clue when it's going to come back on. So these solar lights are going to allow them to be able to see at night.
While clean water and essential supplies bring hope and relief to families like the Jagers, Operation Blessing teams also see an opportunity to highlight the power of community and compassion in times of crisis. George Thomas, CBN News.
Still ahead, lessons from the beautiful game. The chaplain of the Seattle Sounders tells us how we can find hope in God through soccer. You're watching CBN News Watch. Welcome back to CBN News Watch. He once saved shots in goal. Now he's saving lives in the pulpit. Jesse Bradley is a former soccer player turned pastor. He is the chaplain of the Seattle Sounders, and he told Tom Buring how the beautiful game can be used to strengthen our faith.
People are searching and starving for hope right now. We need to reject the narrative of hopelessness. God's hope is indestructible. Let's receive God's hope and let's give God's hope.
Jesse Bradley defends hope with the same determined desire as he once did with his soccer goal at his back. The former professional goalkeeper now pastors, chaplains the Seattle Sounders, and appears on national media as an invited contributor, voicing a pastoral perspective from a city that picks its preferences.
Here you are in Seattle, dubbed the least religious city in the U.S. Why do you think there is that disconnect?
You can't deny that reality. We can't stay within the walls of the church. We've taken drive-through prayer to the busiest street. Pull into the parking lot, they pour out their hearts, there's tears for God's presence. And they might say they're not religious, but that doesn't mean they're not open. Some people have experienced hypocrisy. What they need to separate is a negative experience from the goodness of God.
You were a professional goalie, and then tragedy hit. What happened, Jesse?
I played at Dartmouth College. We won 2 Ivy League titles to the NCAA Final 8. From there, I played in Scotland, and then in Africa. It's the Highlanders Football Club. There was a prescribed medication to prevent malaria, built up toxic levels in my system. Tragically ended my career. I was fighting for my life for 1 year, and it took 10 years to fully recover. And it was brutal, Tom. I felt like I lost my identity, but God met me at that low place to rebuild and restore me and even redirect me to be a pastor now.
Footing is important in any sport, paramount in soccer. What does the game allow the player to uncommonly see from the ground up?
Your footwork is your foundation, because soccer is about moving the ball forward together, making the runs off the ball. And when you understand each other, complement each other, that's the culture that you want to build on every team. How can we bring out the best in each other? Learning patience and perseverance on the field carries over into every other part of your life.
What's the primary skill set to be an elite soccer goalie?
I think back to a coach I had who's from Ghana. The 18-yard box, that's where a goalkeeper can use your hands. He said, you are the lion, and they are coming in to try to steal your cubs. So this is your territory, and you need to lead it. Make sure that nothing is going to enter into the net. That's the mentality you have. If they don't score, we're not going to lose.
You've got to have awareness. You've got to have anticipation.
Goalkeepers have a unique perspective. You see the entire field, and you have to think it's the other teammates to be in the right places. And if you are able to see not just what is happening, but what's going to happen, now you can extinguish the challenges before they can build momentum.
How have those positional instincts equipped you in having the back of a congregation and not needing to be at the forefront of it?
Great question, Tom. When you're up front and when you're in a place where no one's watching, are you the same person? Are you abiding with Jesus? You can't have complacency as a goalkeeper. If you mentally start to drift when the action's further away, you won't be ready when the ball comes. It's about being in the right place and being ready. Abiding with Jesus, being led by the Holy Spirit. Where is God moving? To be available and listening before the save happens. And there's so much in our lives God is preparing us for before the breakthrough and the big moment. It's incremental, not just monumental.
Fitting that you're a chaplain for the MLS Seattle Sounders. What is it about the soccer life that's unique compared to athletes in other professional sports?
Soccer is the most popular sport around the world. It's the beautiful game, more running, more footwork, and there's less scoring. So you really have to appreciate the nuances. The chaplain's role is to serve. What do you need? How can I pray for you? How can I help you in a situation or in your walk with God? Being consistent, keeping your word. When people trust, they open up, and that's where life is rich. A lot of teams care about the souls, the mental health of the players, because they know that this is an individual and it should be much bigger than just their performance.
With every high performance profession, especially sports, identity, and it can be about uncertainty.
Identity leads to security, and security leads to authenticity. And soccer players, athletes feel like you always have to be impressive, compete. When you're secure, you can rest in the Lord's love. And you understand that who you are is not what you do. The crowd's going to be fickle. You might get traded, you might get cut. And so in a world that's constantly changing, to have Jesus the same yesterday, today, and forever, you have that security in your soul. You're not as rattled by criticism because you already know whose you are, and you don't have to impress everybody. You're secure in how God's made you and being faithful to Jesus. That's our North Star.
We often need to be reminded each of us can be chaplains within our own occupation.
Yes. Choose faith over fear. God calls us to move out of what's just comfortable, and God makes it clear in His Word that we are all ministers, we are all priests, and we are all ambassadors for Jesus. Because that's who we are, let's live that out And when you see lives transformed, now they come alive. And as you serve people, that's when you're going to be at your best. That's when you're most like Jesus.
Coming up, revival breaks out at one of the nation's largest prisons. We're going to share the good news with you coming up next. Revival at one of the nation's largest maximum security prisons led many people to Jesus. God Behind Bars Ministry held the service at Angola Prison in Louisiana. Nearly 1,000 men and women serving time there attended the gathering. Grammy Award-winning singer Lauren Daigle led worship and gave a powerful message of hope. 300 inmates gave their lives to Christ, and 50 inmates and a prison security guard received baptism during the service. Time now for your Friday Faithful, and today I want to leave you with this message. God is a faithful force. He cannot fail, and He won't leave you. Quiet the noise. Take a moment alone, and you will see you are not alone. He is with you. If you listen, you'll hear Him, and if you're opening your heart, you will feel Him. With that word, walk in faith today and make this a faith-filled Friday. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. Take a moment, let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. We'll see you Monday. Goodbye and God bless.